Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I am joined today by my brother from another mother, A1, Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, what's going on, my friend?
I am happily not running in a tornado today, and that makes me pleased.
Yeah, that's good. Why don't you tell everyone the short story here? That was kind of funny. I was talking about unearthing Lego sets. My mother gave me some Lego sets from when I was a kid, playing with those with my younger daughter, and I was talking about cleaning them, and then I had them outside, and all of a sudden it was like 20% chance of rain on the day. I'm like, it's a little warm out there. They'll dry a little quicker. It got rained on, and then you said you were the Lego the other day in this circumstance.
Yeah, I was definitely the Lego. I'm out. I'm doing a lot of running now and whatnot. With my health kick that I've been on. But I was actually just doing a walk, and I'm about 2 miles from my house, and I turn to the right, and I look out at the skyline, and I looks like the wrath of God is coming at me. The sky is completely black, and the clouds are very tumultuous and whatnot. So I said, all right, I guess I should head home. I turned and I started walking home, and it didn't take. It must have come up so fast because I may have taken maybe 15 steps and I started feeling rain. And I turned around and sheets of water are coming at me to the point where all of a sudden I'm just completely drenched. So I took off running, and I thought, okay, then the lightning and the thunder and there's leaves flying through the air and branches are flying and trees are falling. I ran basically the rest of the way home, probably did the fastest mile I've done in a while. I got home and I found out we had a tornado.
Yeah, it sounded like you were in the Wizard of Oz. You just didn't have Toto.
It was pretty exciting. I was telling you, I wish I had my GoPro with me and I could have filmed it. But I get back to the point that means I feel like something was going to happen on a walk around my neighborhood that I needed a GoPro for. And that was never going to be in my mindset. So,
well, hey, it's one of those cases where you don't run with the phone or anything. Well, I guess if it's pouring down rain,
I did. I didn't want to pull the phone out of my pocket because I was like, it was that bad. I have never actually been in rain like that. It was sheets. I mean, you just couldn't even see. It was like water was just in the air.
It's just that's kind of mind blowing in a certain way, and then obviously I think we've all been caught in a situation like that. And I was trying to think. You were saying the lightning and the thunder. You're probably too old. Do you know the song? Is that Imagine Dragons? I don't remember. I don't know. I don't know all these new bands.
Imagine Dragons. I don't know the song because I don't know anything by them.
Well, my kid sings it, so it's like it's what keeps us young and it's like Zach, except he looked like the old man. Although you got the mohawk going too. So, but anyway,
I did, yeah, it's gone now, but I did have it for a weekend.
Yeah, because you did the virtual thing. Brian's in much better shape than me. I just keep getting banged up. I got caught on a set of stairs yesterday, and it was like one of these stairs where one of the steps were not the same as the rest, as you would be expecting to go up them, and just a little bit of gravel, like chipping concrete, and boom, my knee like just went right into it, and I'm just like, man, it's just I'm walking around. I'm going to be looking like Lazarus soon enough. So for anybody who knows the reference, Lazarus was the man that revived in the Bible. So it's just, I'm going to be like Walking Dead or something like that. But anyways, we were talking, we're talking dark clouds and stuff like that. And I know we're already a few minutes in, and is already, I guess not entirely off topic. We know some people come here to escape, to get away from some of the, turmoils and things that are going on in the world. And, talking to dark clouds, there's some hanging over our country. We won't, don't tune us out. Don't hit the fast forward button. We're not going to get political or lecture anyone or anything like this. But I think it was eloquently said by one of the Pittsburgh Steelers players, Steve Nelson, the glove, the guy we like, the guy whose jock we're on. We're going to be on his jock a little more here. He sent out a tweet a couple days ago. He said, "So glad I'm in Pittsburgh, man. Y'all don't even know the half The bond between owner, coach, players, and staff is second to none. Best place for a player to be. A lot of places can't say that, and trust me, I know. I've seen it, and I think that hits a nail on the head with the current climate, over the last week or so that's going on throughout the United States and in pockets of the world too as well. And we've heard this before with Ike Taylor coming on the show. He's always had some tremendous things to say. And Brian, even me and you, football is family. Football is a sense of community. I think sports. I even say, for us specifically, football brought me and you together. For example, we would have never known each other through this. We've had a tremendous amount of opportunities. Others have had tremendous amounts of opportunities, and I've always felt. I think Patrick Mahomes had something that he had said, and I don't actually have it up. If I could find it again, I will. But he said something about the world basically being. Like the locker room, or be as inviting as the locker room is, and you couldn't say it any better than that. I think you don't see, you don't divide things when it comes to sports. And I've always said this, and not to be funny, and it may even roll off the tongue the wrong way, but I'm just trying to be even keel because we don't want filth in the comment section. That isn't what we're inviting. We're not trying to turn people off from our program, obviously. But I've always said the NFL was a place too where if you're, I don't know, yellow, green, purple, or whatever, if you have the talents or a certain type of talents, you're going to get found. You know what I mean? And I know there's breaks and lucky breaks and opportunities and stuff. You could say that for Antonio Brown, that was a 6th-round pick, or Tom Brady, that was a 6th-round pick, or anything like that. But not to be too funny, I think if you could do the job, you're going to be there. You know what I mean? And that's what it boils down to, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. I'll let you get a little comment in here too, but that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today with players on the hot seat. But Brian, I think Steven Nelson hit the nail on the head. And by the way, the Steelers, they're coaches and stuff back in the building as of today too. So back to business for football.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, I try and keep my Steelers world and my non-Steelers world as distinct and separate as I can, simply because I understand the need to get away from the real world troubles that face us, and that's what my Steelers entity is. If anybody wants to check me out on Facebook and learn my other stuff, you're welcome to do so. Trust me, you're going to read everything you could possibly want to know about my opinions on what's going on.
For better or worse.
For better or worse, yeah. If you don't, that's great. Don't do it. But that's where I'll let that stuff rant out. I will tell you, I've known for a long time that this organization is that type of an organization. It stems back to the Bill Nunn days. It stems back to the way the Rooneys view the world, and the way the Rooneys view just humanity in general. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It is a large part of why I am a Steelers fan, it helps me identify better with the team. So I get what Steven Nelson is saying, and I buy into that completely. So it's a good thing. And like I said, you want to find out more, go look me up on Facebook.
Well, you could also, the book about what's the title of it? Dan Rooney's book, that Jim Rooney.
Jim Rooney wrote. Yeah. I can't remember what it's called.
Finding a different way, or what the heck?
Yeah.
What the heck? I mean, that hits the nail on the head too. I mean, so still a great read. I'm looking. It's probably still, A Different Way to Win. That's what it was. Yep. Jeez, how can I forget that? Dan Rooney's story from the Super Bowl to the Rooney Rule. So, and you know what? That was unfortunately that part, the Rooney Rule thing, and some of the changes in that were. We'd almost planned on doing a discussion with Mike Tomlin and everything like that, but we're gonna table some of that just so it doesn't conflate or mix in with some of the current events in our world. But I did find the Patrick Mahomes thing here too. But the Rooney book pretty much will tell you everything you need to know about the Steelers organization. Or you can go back in the archives if you find the first Ike Taylor interview around January-ish. I think, and we also had Jim Rooney on in late December. Both of those are also great if you're interested in finding out more about how the Steelers operate and why the players love to be in Pittsburgh and feel welcomed and at home there. As for Patrick Mahomes, he says, all I can think of, this is paraphrased, by the way, all I could think about is how I grew up in a locker room where people from every race, every background, and every community came together and became brothers to accomplish a single goal. I hope that our country can learn from the injustices that we have witnessed to become more like the locker room where everyone is accepted. We all need to treat each other like brothers and sisters and become something better. You say it. The world out when we sign off, you say it's chaos out there. Be kind. I say be safe and be good. That's where it boils down to. So, with all that said, I felt we had to address something at least in portion. Getting to our football portion of everything here, and we could still talk about Mike Tomlin a little bit here. We're talking about Steelers on the hot seat. I don't think we really are prefacing that as far as whether it's a coach or a player or something like that. I think we could rapid fire a few of these. Kevin Colbert is not on the hot seat. He's he's almost year to year. I think Mike Tomlin's going to be starting to get into this too. I mean, he's been coaching like 14 years or whatever already, and it's just a long time. I mean, people usually don't keep a job like that. It's got to be a grind. I mean, I don't know if he loves it or has a passion for it that he could just continuously do it like a Bill Belichick. I know sometimes it's a thankless job where guys are sleeping on couches in facilities and stuff, and they're putting in 16-hour days or whatever, and it could be a grind. But for all intents and purposes, there's a lot of idiots out there, and yes, I won't even say yinzers. This goes beyond the yinzers. The yinzers sometimes have some valid points, and they can yins and rant and be negative sometimes. But for those people who think Mike Tomlin might be on a hot seat this season, the job he did last year, most of yins out there up until December were already, crowning him coach of the year. As we were we were on that bandwagon too. And unfortunately, an axle and a wheel broke on it, and Duck couldn't repair it. But and I ran. I'm going to go to Duck too at some point. It's. We talk about doing the best job you can in the situation and the hand you're dealt. And me and Zach, I don't know if you heard some of the stuff we talked about on our previous episode. I know Mike had finally had a program. Mike showed up for the first time in this year, earlier this week. And you can check that out. That was a real short, quick hitter there too. But me and Zach were talking about how there was damn near 40 players that played on offense last year or were eligible to play on offense, and that didn't help Duck Hodges or Mason Rudolph or anybody like that, but certainly Mike Tomlin to be able to even crawl to 8 wins and be in playoff contention, everything like that. I understand he didn't make the playoffs 2 years in a row. He had some knuckleheads that imploded on him, like Antonio Brown, that kind of sabotaged that. The axle broke on that, and they had the talent. They went to try and rebuild that and lost their franchise quarterback and a slew of other people that were in and out of the lineup throughout the 2019 season. And to be able to do what he did, I mean, you look at somebody like Freddie Kitchens up in Cleveland by comparison, and that guy was going to be the next offensive guru, and he was going to take the Browns to the promised land with all these high-dollar, big-name players, whether they were free agents or, first-round, first overall draft picks, and they still haven't been able to piece together anything. And so there's a lot to be said about coaching, and, it doesn't come down to anything other than Mike Tomlin is not only a great coach, but he appears to also be a very what do you want to say? I don't want to say humble, but as far as a human being, a great human being that fits within what the Steelers have always done. And the players respond and play for him. They play their hearts out for them, and that's how they got to 8 wins. He's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon, and I don't really see it either with the coordinators at all either. I mean, we really got to see how this year ends up with Ben Roethlisberger returning, but I don't see Randy Fichtner, and nobody's talking about Keith Butler getting fired anymore either. Remember, that was the big thing. So, I think with Ben back, I think your opinion of Randy will obviously change too in terms of how they run the offense and things of that nature. And even with the second, guys I almost call Mason a second year because that first year he just sat under the learning tree, and you keep forgetting, he's going to be a third-year quarterback, but second year of active duty, I guess you want to say, when as a player. You would expect improvement all around. I don't think any of the coaches are on the hot seat, Brian.
Yeah, the closest. I mean, the closest you'll get is Fichtner. If the offense struggles this year, obviously with Ben back and isn't creative enough, then and they struggle to put points up on the board. Fichtner will be targeted heavily. I mean, he was targeted heavily last year by fans, despite the fact that everybody understood that he didn't have anything to work with. But this year will be different in a sense. But I do think, we both said at various times, I'm going to give Randy Fichtner a pass for last year because, the tool belt was empty, or what you have. So, he just didn't have the tools he needed to run what he wanted to run. He should have them this year. A second year, wide receiver, and Deontay Johnson, Ben Roethlisberger, Hall of Fame quarterback coming back. The influx of new talent and what he had in place, we should expect to see improvement, and some drastic improvement in relation to that. But provided that nothing goes south, where's some wood for me to knock on. I agree with you.
Bang on it like a drum.
Yeah, I don't think any of the coaches are really on the hot seat, and I think in many fans' minds, Mike Tomlin's been on the hot seat for years, but he never really has. So, and we've said that consistently. He's not in any danger right now. I think he will leave when he wants to leave.
That's kind of the same thing. It makes me wonder, though, because Bill Cowher, for all intents and purposes, he had some rough years here or there. Was he ever on the hot seat? I mean, we didn't have. You didn't even have you had ESPN. You didn't even have an ESPN2, let alone all of these different outlets, internet, social media, and everything like that to expand upon whether or not there was smoke and flames and everything else to be a hot seat for Bill Cowher. And here we go. He's going into the Hall of Fame. So I think I don't think there's anything else. If Mike Tomlin won another Super Bowl, then there's no question, no doubt whatsoever he's a shoo-in. We talked about that before with guys like John Madden and Tony Dungy, et cetera, et cetera. There's a few others that maybe even Tom Landry or somebody like that, where he's on equal footing with the type of career he's had as a head coach. So it wouldn't surprise me, but he may have a weight like Cowher did, because there's just I don't know what they're going to do with the Hall of Fame, man. It's like they did a special commemorative class for the 100th year, the centennial year, in order to get some well-deserving names and people into the Hall. But it just seems like there's, with more teams and more players in the NFL over the years, the expansions and things like that, I think they're going to have to increase that at some point to get some more deserving names in there. But it might be a little bit of time for Tomlin. As much as I hate to say it, Bill Belichick, I don't think will have a wait, but
no.
That's one of the exceptions to the rule, as we say. So let's start at the top. We've already we did start at the top. We started with Colbert. We started with coaching. So let's keep going. Ben Roethlisberger. Hot seat or no hot seat? I'm going to say no hot seat because why? He's not going to go anywhere. They owe him a lot of money. Hurt or not, he's on the roster this year and probably next year as well, and not going anywhere. His contract. Where's Ben's contract at? Of course, I pulled this up, and it's not the first thing I'm looking at. It expires 2022, so he's still got this year and next year on it. Don't expect Ben to be going anywhere anytime soon. And, as much as everybody wants to draft the next guy, we're not going to get into that today, but Ben's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No, and I don't think he's on the hot seat. Look, if again, this is as much the same as with Fichtner. If he comes out and he's terrible, which, again, I don't anticipate happening, I expect a Ben Roethlisberger that is equal or better than the Ben Roethlisberger we last saw. And I don't mean the first couple games of a season where he ended up being hurt. I mean a season where he threw for 5,000 plus yards. I expect him to be sharp. I expect him to be on his game. And I expect him to be the guy that we're used to seeing. And I would expect that for the next couple of years. Yeah, he's not in any danger. There's nobody on the roster that even approaches his level of skill and ability. So it's a non-starter.
Yeah, absolutely. And might as well throw the other quarterbacks in too. Mason Rudolph's seat is not hot at all. It's not even warm. I would say Ducks is warm only because, even though he got to play last year, this is still an undrafted guy from a small college that's going to be constantly looking over his shoulder as the QB3, more or less no different than Landry Jones or Joshua Dobbs that preceded him. So I will say he at least has a warm to lukewarm seat, especially with Paxton Lynch sitting there. I'm sorry, folks, JT Barrett, I just don't think is a guy that is competing for a roster spot at this time, even though, me and Brian would be biased enough to say we really liked him, but he did a lot of great things at Ohio State. He also did some things sometimes that made me want to smash a TV or throw a bottle on the field when I was in Indy for the Big Ten championship game. But that's where I'm at. I liked Dwayne Haskins a heck of a lot better than I liked JT Barrett, despite Barrett having the 4-year starter, whatever, and all these stats. Great college quarterback, and not a guy I think that translates to the pros. So Duck's seat is warm. I don't think you could say anything about the other guys. They don't even at this time does Paxton Lynch or JT Barrett actually have seats.
Yeah, I don't even know if they have a seat.
Yeah, I don't know that they're even pulling up to the table. So,
I agree with that sentiment. Mason is fine and is entrenched in the role that they want him in. I will say this: if again the worst were to occur and Ben were to get hurt and miss any considerable amount of time, and Mason came in and performed poorly, then that changes. But right now, I think he's not got a hot seat, and Duck has the hot seat that all third string quarterbacks have. It's is the guy behind you going to steal your spot? So if Paxton Lynch can play better than him in the preseason, he may be gone. You just have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I said it. It's like Tomlin saying, obviously. We just can't get away from it.
Yes.
Obviously, they're back in the building today. Anyway, obviously, I'm going back to work. Yeah, well, that's the quarterbacks. I think going into the backfield, though, I think they're it. It's funny how like fans like turn last year or going into the 2019 season around this time last year when we're talking, it was all defense. They got to do things about defense. You know what I mean? And now it's all offense. And James Conner went from selling, not playing at all hardly his rookie year and selling some of the most jerseys of anyone in the NFL and being beloved and cancer survivor, et cetera, to everybody wants to run him out of town. You better stay healthy and this, that, and the other thing. We used to hear these same things about Le'Veon Bell too when he would get banged up. And I understand maybe two different sets of circumstances here, but still the same. In correlation of being running backs who haven't always been available to the team, and it leaves fans. I don't know. Fans I don't get mad at players for getting hurt. It's part of the game. There's nothing you could really do about it. So, but it's hard to ignore that James Conner is entering a contract year that the Steelers have added running backs in the draft in each of the last 2 years. Maybe not as high of a pick as Conner was in the third round, but still Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland. You can't ignore that, and even Jalen Samuels for that matter. You can't ignore that the Steelers are maybe still looking for something or looking for some consistency there. Connor says he would like to stay. If that really was a picture of him, he looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger with his back on Instagram. He's always been a workout freak. He's always worked hard, but his seat is going to be hot because if he gets hurt, I don't know that he'll get that second contract with the Steelers. Probably with someone else. He's probably shown enough to at least have a chance somewhere else in the NFL, but he's got to pretty much play, I would say, at least 14 games, if not 15, in order to get that second contract from the Steelers. So a little more, it's a boiling hot seat for James Conner, I say.
Yeah, James Conner, there's no question James Conner is on the hot seat, so to speak, simply from the standpoint of injury and performance. When he's there, when he plays, he's an impactful player. Availability is the best ability concept here, and if he's not going to be available, then that's gonna weigh on things. So I think that they still have faith in James Conner. Obviously, they've stated it that way. They still like what he can provide, and it's going to be one of the big questions that has been circling is Tomlin going to finally succumb and be willing to do a running back by committee type of thing. Or is it going to be bell cow and, fast Willie Parker, I'm going to run him till the wheels fall off kind of concept? The problem is I think James Conner's wheels get dinged up a lot faster and could be flat before they need to be. So, I think he's on the hot seat to try and stay healthy. I agree. And we've talked about this a couple times now. I started the season thinking there's no way he gets that second contract. It's just not going to happen. And now I'm at the point, based on things Connor himself has said, where I think, provided that, he's not looking to be Le'Veon Bell, and reset the running back market, and he's going to take a team-friendly deal, they may still have a way to use him and keep him in the fold. We'll have to wait and see how that all transpires. But I think that the needle is probably swinging more towards there being a possibility, but again, it'll depend on his availability.
I can't even speak. I can't get it out there. I didn't want to say absolutely again. That's why the cat got my tongue there, but I couldn't say it any better. I don't think any of the other running backs, I know some people are like, oh, well, you could cut Jalen Samuels. What does he really do? He threw a pick in a Wildcat. I mean, the guy is being asked to do something with the best he can do to, his ability. We're talking about being put in situations to succeed, and that wasn't the best situation. Although, he had that one game where we were calling him J Slash already. So
right.
I don't see he obviously, a guy like Benny Snell is going to enter his second year. These guys that are on these like rookie deals, it's not becoming of the Steelers to cut somebody in their second, third, and even maybe their fourth year, unless they'd have to be atrocious, or there has to be a bevy of talent in that depth chart. And I think all those guys are going to be on the roster come the fall. And, I don't know what else to say. I don't think they're going to add any other running backs. I think some of the other guys, I don't even know, like Kareth White or like Trey Edmonds, those are going to be guys that are looking at the practice squad once again. But those aren't guys you necessarily classify as hot seat. James Conner is a name that's like, boom. That's where if you put it on the front page of the sports section, you're going to sell newspapers. So those are the guys, we're really talking about here. And that kind of correlates to the wide receivers. Talking about turning on guys. I mean, was there a more lovable guy than Juju Smith-Schuster over the first few years of his tenure? And then, the guy tries to play hurt, as a banged up ankle, is playing with, whatever, blindfold you and throw a dart. This is the quarterback you're going to have this week. So, it's very difficult to get on the same page there. He looked like a freak of nature when he was in training camp, and he's still incredibly young, and not to throw around anybody younger than, you call me a kid because I'm younger than you, Brian, and anybody younger than me, I'm starting to think, I'm getting up there in age too. I'm always catching up to you, by the way. My ageist or ageism or whatever showing here. Respect my elder. And I'm mad that you have hair, that you could actually do a mohawk.
What can I tell you? It's genes, man. It's all genes.
It is genes. I have terrible genes. This is all karma for making fun of my dad when I was a kid and saying, "Ha, you're bald." So, anyways, it's caught up to me. But I don't get all the hate though. Like when you're looking at the very, very young wide receiver core. I mean, James Washington's older than Juju Smith-Schuster. The hot seat is not boiling. I think. Well. People want to put Juju on the hot seat, and I think it's just because he's going to be entering a contract year. I think people also they build the bridge of diva wide receivers, and at one time we were defending Antonio Brown, and I don't know. It was almost like I think it just it festers or grows over time, and then all of a sudden you become you get it in your head that you're bigger than what you really are as part of a me. I know there's me in team, but there really isn't. There's definitely not an I, and unfortunately, we saw what became of AB. But I think that's like guilt by association, just because these guys suit up with the same color uniform. So I don't get that same vibe from Juju, but I do have this awful gut feeling that it's going to cost some money, some major buckos that the Steelers are going to have to figure out how to spend in order to retain his services beyond this season. That's the only reason I think you would put him on any type of hot seat. I don't foresee him having like a miserable or terrible season for any reason other than if injury or something were to happen. And then he may also be viewed as damaged goods to other teams, because then he would have been 2 seasons where he's missing, multiple games or something of that nature. And, people just look at it as, hey, hey, this guy didn't have as good of a season. He didn't live up and fill Antonio Brown's shoes. Well, who was going to? The offense just was stagnant. It stunk. The lineups were different every single week. Go back to the show from last week with me and Zach. We break down all 16 games. It was just we were actually stunned or in shock, Brian, when going from game to game, because we had forgotten like some of these things had changed, even offensive lines and everything else. It just wasn't just quarterback, and that didn't help the wide receivers. So guys like Juju, I would actually almost say that James Washington might have a hotter seat, because he's entering year 3. He's got 2 young bucks right behind him with Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, who could be stealing his playing time. They could nudge into the conversation too as to whether the Steelers should or shouldn't re-sign or make an offer or extend or keep Juju. That could creep into the conversation too. But I honestly think James Washington's maybe at more risk, since we actually have games and film and things to fall back on where we've seen Juju succeed, versus James Washington has shown flashes but hasn't had maybe the same types of opportunities, or hasn't shown the big play consistency that people would probably expect of a second rounder.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. I think James Washington's seat may be hotter than Juju's. I think the thing for me with Juju is going to be the mistakes at critical junctures. The trying too hard that leads to the fumble, that leads to the game being lost. That kind of stuff. Whether it's a fair or unfair knock on him, he's got it in people's minds because it's happened more than once. And as a result, people are going to think about that, and they're going to target that, and they're going to consider that. He needs to clean that up and have a cleaner season. I don't think Juju Smith-Schuster needs to have a 1,200, 1,300 yard year with all kinds of 110 catches and all that stuff. I think he needs to be a consistent contributor and not not have those mistakes. And if he does that, I think that the Steelers will try and work something out. Receivers have this reputation of being divas, and whether Juju is a diva or not, we are going to learn relatively quickly, because if he feels, hey, I am a prima donna and I deserve prima donna money, he may have a surprise coming his way, because the Steelers tend to not look at things that way. They paid Antonio Brown very well, but as much as I like Juju, he's not performing at that level right now. So to expect him to cough up that kind of dough is probably not realistic. But we'll see. I think he's got a warm seat. I think James Washington has a hotter seat. Deontay Johnson doesn't have a hot seat. It's too early. He's got too many years left on his rookie contract. Obviously, Chase Claypool is not on a hot seat. If you asked me,
you're going there. I know you're going there. Who has the hottest seat? Maybe on the entire offense.
If you ask me who's the guy, it's his name sort of rhymes with Twizzler. It's Ryan Switzer. To me, look, I get that Ben's his buddy and that Ben likes him. I get that he's a good guy. I'm done with the Ryan Switzer as a football player experiment, because I'm tired of seeing him run 45 yards to gain -1 or 1. He's not doing anything dramatic. Yes, he catches the ball when he's thrown and he goes right down, or he runs around and then goes right down. And it's not yak that's coming in from those. It's I don't even know what you call it, garbage yards, because they're yards that are left to right instead of forward.
Jesse James yards.
Yeah, Jesse James yards. I just don't see the value that Ryan Switzer is providing right now. Deontay's taken over punt returns and has done a tremendous job doing so. He can fill. They've got multiple guys who can fill that slot role. The only role that Ryan Switzer fills is short white guy.
Oh man!
And I'm sorry, I don't know that that's helpful to the team's overall success. So If you're going to tell me what receiver is on the hot seat, it's Ryan Switzer.
That's a stereotype that probably best fits the New England Patriots, who would probably make him into a Pro Bowl guy.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Yeah, because they don't have that TB12 that's up there. The real TB12 is from Pittsburgh, always. So,
yes, true.
Anyways, I was saying Switzer is probably the hottest, not necessarily because he's a short white guy, but because he lost his special teams duties. So that's one thing that kept him on the roster. One of the things he was looked at for sure, because he's fast. He's still fast. I've always been jealous. I'm 6'5". The shorter guys are always like, well, you got long strides. And I'm like, man, you can move your legs like a lot faster. Like 2 of your strides are like boom, boom, boom. You're quick. You can get up to speed a lot faster than I can. But then again, I wasn't, genes, genetics, Brian, really wasn't gifted with that type of being a fast runner or any type of fast or agility. But anyways, Ryan Switzer he wasn't. I don't know. I don't even know why or how he ended up on IR. I don't know what kind of move that was. Was that to protect him and give him a job and a paycheck and stuff like that last year? I mean, you can make speculation. A lot of people will tell you teams do not place people on injured reserve just to do stuff like that, and I will tell you that yes, they do also. So it's a coin flip on that type of speculation. But it's just a matter of that's a packed wide receiver room, and they still got Darnell, what's his name, one of the guys from the XFL. They had picked up a wide receiver from there too that could run pretty quick, and he's a bigger guy. And there's all kinds of factors. I mean, Johnny Holton ended up making the roster last year too. So these type of things happen, and with a little bit of an expanded roster on game days, you could see the Steelers maybe hanging on to 6 wide receivers. I tend to think they'll have 5 just because of all the running backs we talked about. But let's talk tight ends before we run out of space and time to talk about defense and some other things. Vance McDonald, hot seat or no hot seat? I think people want to put him on the hot seat because they have this perception that he's missed games, but the guy plays hurt. I had already mentioned he played more snaps than any other skill position player last season. I don't think that Eric Ebron being signed necessarily is the death knell to his career in Pittsburgh either. I think they're two different types of players, and the Steelers have been they've been seeking a reliable starting tight end, and if one of the guys gets banged up, they still need an extra guy. But they've also been a team that where if Vance McDonald was healthy, they would put Jesse James out there. You know what I mean? And Jesse was even getting some playing time at the when he was a rookie with Heath Miller still there because Matt Spaeth was still there too, and both those guys retired and kind of left the Steelers holding the bag as to try and find the replacement. I don't think they ever viewed Jesse James as a 5th-round pick as being a full-time starter, and we kind of just made a joke about how he went down real easy. There's a couple of guys I tag like that. Martavis Bryant's another one that didn't, it seemed like he would go down pretty easy if you breathed on him, but then again, they can make some really big plays, and Jesse still caught it by, damn, Patriots, that just drives me crazy. But I don't have Vance McDonald on any type of hot seat. Eric Ebron, though, we've seen guys come in like Ladarius Green and could basically flunk out. We've seen Dante Moncrief come in and crash and burn quickly and on his way out. Lance Moore. We've seen guys like this that are veteran players that maybe not big contracts or whatever it may be. So Eric Ebron, if he has a stinky year, he's not going to be around next year. So the Steelers are going to continue searching for the next thing. I don't think these are incredibly hot seats, but it's still something where they could be compelled to make a move if things don't go the way that they see them on paper right now.
Yeah, I think you definitely just like I did to you with Ryan Switzer, you stole my thunder with Eric Ebron.
Yeah.
I think Eric Ebron is on. Of the tight ends, his seat is the warmest, and it's simply because of history, not him personally, but they've gotten burned with some free agent signings that haven't panned out, and I would agree with that. Look, again, he doesn't have to light the world on fire. He just has to be a consistent contributor, and his second year will be fine. If he is. Look, I don't even want to mention the guys that if he is, but if for whatever reason he does not live up to billing, at least to a degree where they feel that he's contributing, then it's one and done. So he's basically in a prove it year with the Steelers. You talk about Vance McDonald, I think they like Vance McDonald. I think that they like what he contributes. I think they like what he brings. If he has a downslide year, because you can look at last year as a downslide primarily because of who was behind center. But if he has the same kind of year or doesn't contribute as much with somebody like Ben in the backfield, that's going to pose them, because he's got 3 years left on his deal, I believe. And that in that instance, they may start to think about other options. But again, he does not have to be, Gronkowski-ish. They just have to be guys that contribute and do their jobs to the best of their abilities and be there and catch the balls that are targeted for them to catch. And I think he can do that. So I say of the group, probably Eric Ebron's seat is the hottest, but I don't know about Zach Gentry. We forget about Zach Gentry as a rookie guy who basically hasn't shown up much at all. He could not make it out of training camp. So, there's another guy that may have a hot seat in that tight end room with Eric Ebron being brought in.
Yeah, I wonder what they think about the development of Christian Scotland Williamson, because, again, Tomlin likes his big, I don't want freak to sound like it's a bad word here. It's a good word when you're talking in terms of workout and fitness and physical attributes. But Tomlin likes his freaks of nature. His large guys like Alejandro Villanueva, Dan McCullers, Christian Scott Williamson. So it's just one of those things where if they think he could just be a guy that could be like even an inline blocker and do that job well, then that's what it's going to be. By the way, I totally butchered. It was Saeed Blacknall, not Blacknail. So I was thinking Darnell something. I must be thinking of another XFL player that signed somewhere else. But anyways, the tight ends, I think you hit the nail on the head with those. And offensive line, I mean, really the hot seat that stands out of anybody that's here is going to be Alejandro Villanueva. He's 31 years old and entering a contract year. What ends up happening with him beyond this season, depending on everything else. I think Pouncey's there for life as long as he wants to be there, unless he really regresses in some way. I think he's the type of guy too that will stand up and walk away when he feels comfortable too. He'll do it on his own terms. I don't think he'll outstay his welcome. I don't think he'll be forced out. David DeCastro, much in the same category. Matt Filer, I know, is in a contract year, but it's like hot seat or whatnot. I don't know. He hasn't been as long term of a player or a starter, I think, that you put in that type of category, and so that pretty much covers the guys with the offensive line. I could mention something about Zach Banner too, but here's another guy. Talk about freaks of nature. The eligible tackle. Here's a guy that's coming back, on the 1 year, whatever it is. What was it? Was he like restricted rights or whatever it may be? And I think he's looking to make a little bit more money too, from just one of the vibes I got from Twitter. I don't want to put any words in his mouth necessarily. He's going to be competing for a spot, and we'll see if he gets a little more than that, but definitely the guy that's on the hot seat's Villanueva.
I would agree with that completely. I think it's hard to put guys like Zach Banner and Matt Filer on a hot seat, because I don't think their seat is tremendously warm or cool ever. They're sort of always on the hot seat. They need to consistently continue to perform. They don't have that established history to fall back on. Whereas, look, David DeCastro and Marquise Pouncey are going to be there as long as they want to be there. I agree with you completely about Pouncey. I think Pouncey is very upfront, and I really honestly do believe that when Ben walks away, Pouncey walks away. I don't think he wants to snap to other guys. You do it in a season like last season because you don't have any choice. But I think that there's a better than good chance that that's exactly what happens, that the two of them ride off into the sunset, so to speak. And DeCastro, he's unless either one of these guys has a precipitous drop off, or when their contracts expire and they feel like they're worth a lot more than what the Steelers are willing to offer at that point, then maybe. But they can probably stay as long as they want to stay. I don't actually think anybody's seat is tremendously hot on the offensive line, but if anybody's is, it's probably Villanueva, simply because his contract is up and his play, whether you want to admit it or not because you love the story, his play has regressed.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with you there on that as well. And, this is another one of these things here. I mean, I think that kind of wraps the offense. We're not going to be talking about Derek Watt or fullbacks or anything like that. And,
Right.
Any of the other guys, no disrespect to any of them, including the ones where I have a brain fart and I lose their names. I'll tell you, man, I've been worn out lately. Jeez, there's just so much. I'm drawing blanks. I just hope it's not early onset of Alzheimer's or something like that. I always worry about that, by the way. Another illness that's just not a good thing for the human race. So, yeah, my wife deals a lot with that type of work and charities and stuff too. So it's like just not good. I don't even like to really make jokes about that. I was actually being semi-serious there, but sometimes I just draw blanks and it's like, blah. So, I mean, I don't want to really draw blanks on the defense because I really don't think there's a whole lot of guys that are going to be hot seated here, Brian. Bud Dupree is obviously the guy with the franchise tag. And the Steelers have come out and said they want to do a long-term type deal there. So the only hot seat I think of Bud Dupree's doing will be of his own, because if they offer him something and he bets on himself, then he's going to create his own issue there. Otherwise, I don't think there's any issue. I don't think there's any situation whatsoever. Obviously, there's not going to be anything with TJ Watt. They're going to give this guy the farm, the keys to the building. he's going to get paid. Cam Hayward has a contract that's expiring. He's another guy that should be a lifer when it comes to being with the Steelers. I don't see him going anywhere. So, and some people may just want to complain about Stephon Tuitt getting paid a lot of money and getting hurt here or there. I don't see Stephon Tuitt going anywhere anytime soon either. So when I'm talking about, the front seven, you really can't talk about Devin Bush, who's under a rookie contract. Vince Williams is another guy I don't see really going anywhere. I don't really categorize guys like Tyson Alualu as being part of that hot seat scenarios either, or Dan McCullers or any of those guys. Is there anyone within the front seven you feel has any type of hot seat there? I think it's pretty much solidified. I just think some guys are going to be offered contracts sooner than others, but I think for the most part they want to keep that unit intact.
It pains me to say this, and it's going to pain me to say this. And it's not because I don't think that he is capable. It's not that I don't think he's continuing actually to play at a high level, but I am concerned about the fact that there has been little or no movement with Cam Hayward, and whether that means he's truly on a hot seat, or whether it means that they just are so far apart in numbers that there's no place or reason to have a conversation. And I just don't know the answers to that. I know Mark Caboli wrote a piece specifically about, Cam Hayward and his contract situation and the things he's thinking and feeling. But I can't read it all because I don't subscribe to The Athletic. Too bad. So it's a paid site, and I don't subscribe to it. So I didn't read it all, but you can tell by the tone of it and the way it starts that there's some reason to be concerned there. There's Cam Hayward is wondering why their conversations haven't happened. He's speculating as to whether this is the end of his Pittsburgh career, as much as he doesn't want it to be. And so, it's hard to categorize it a hot seat because his play and level of play, his leadership in the locker room, all those things would make you say, there's absolutely no way this guy's on the hot seat. There is no hot seat for him. But you wonder what is exactly going on and how the Steelers are attempting to view what's moving forward here. Do I think eventually some kind of an offer will come for Cam Hayward? God, I hope so. I cannot see the original grown-ass man going to any other team because I can't call him a grown-ass man at any other team.
That would be very painful.
I can't do it. So it bothers me to think that the one guy on the defense who might, in fact, be on the hot seat might be Cam Hayward. But I don't know what's heating that seat up, so to speak. I agree with you about Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree is going to get some kind of an offer. It's going to be whether Bud wants to take that offer or not, and then the hot seat is again of his own making. I think something will happen there. It's beyond that. Vince Williams is in a position where he's winding down a career. So I don't know. Is it a hot seat, or is he just getting into that Lawrence Timmons range where it's the Steelers are ready to move into a different direction? There's nobody
Timmons.
to move to right now.
Lawrence. Wait, we gotta pause here for a second. Not telling anyone to shut this off. There was, we make fun of clickbait and stuff sometimes. If you read something about a potential bringing back Lawrence Timmons, a guy who hasn't played in 2-3 years, that went AWOL on the Miami Dolphins, week 3 that he was there, and all sorts of things. The Steelers moved on from him. He was quite upset that there wasn't those contract talks, and he was getting up there in his mid-30s. He's not coming back. Just that was like the most crazy thing that I've read. And I've read. We opened the show with crazy things going on in the world and things like that. And a little tongue in cheek here that as far as with football specifically and the Steelers, that was probably the most wild thing that I've ever that I've read in a while. At least in the last week, we see a lot of crazy things. Sometimes this came from an actual website that covers the Steelers. It's like I understand some of this is opinion and editorial, but my goodness, at least when we put up an opinion or editorial, we could back it up with some type of, is he really going to come in at 34 years old to be a backup inside linebacker, which also would need to play special teams? No, and no. Stop it.
No. Yeah, I look, that's just, that's somebody clinging to the past of what Lawrence Timmons was initially, and just having some kind of a weird fantasy that I don't know what it was. They smoked too much weed that night.
Too much wacky tobacco for sure.
Yeah. But so Vince, his seat may be slightly warm, but I think it's more of just his career is starting to wind down. He's definitely in the tail end of it as opposed to being at the start of it, and whether his performance maintains itself this season will have a lot of impact on whether he plays out the rest of the contract he's currently under. Hot seat again, another potential guy that could be gone, right, is Joe Hayden. But that's, again, not because his play hasn't been there. It's just the fact that you got a guy who, when his contract runs out, is going to be, 32 or 33. And, is he in danger of being gone next year? I doubt it, but it's a big chunk of change that he's going to get made. And if his play starts to drop off, because he's in that range where players do start to drop off, it could happen. I don't think as I said, I don't think his seat is terribly hot. And I know everyone under the sun, all the Yinzers are going to be screaming that the guy on the hot seat is Terrell Edmonds. He's not on a hot seat. He's got at least 2 more years on his rookie deal, and then he's got a potential 5th-year option. And I know that people are like, you can't possibly decide for 5th-year option now. Well, it stinks. He's terrible. You don't know that yet. You said the same stuff about Bud Dupree, and now you're losing your crap because Bud Dupree is maybe going to go. So wait and find out. We don't know whether he's Artie Burns or Bud Dupree yet, and we won't until another couple years go by. And I'm hoping he ends up more Bud than Artie. So we'll see. But I don't think he's on a hot seat. I just think fans are going to give him grief. So there's less hot seat territory on the defense because this defense just balled out last year.
The most is under with contracts. Mike Hilton or Cam Sutton.
Yep.
Those are those guys are going to be chomping at the bit to get his. It's going. What did Tomlin say when it was Ross Cockrell and was it Cody Sensabaugh? When he said two dogs, one bone. 2 dogs, 1 bone. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking with these guys because I think maybe similar roles, and you just never know what Justin Lane's going to do. And that anything beyond that speculation, and there's no training camp now, so it's going to be even more difficult to try and disseminate some information where, with all the things with the COVID-19, I don't even know that we'll have any type of sideline access that we've had in the past either. So it's they may be extremely limited. Maybe I'll have to go to the Athletic, Brian, in order to get. And they probably still wouldn't allow but one person from the one media outlet. Maybe with that exception, though, they have Ed Boucher and Mark Caboli, so that have been doing this for umpteen years. So that guys with familiarity would probably be in there. But anybody new, I kind of highly doubt it. They're probably going to have like little. They're gonna use the electrical tape to put X's and have them staggered around the stands or whatever too. It's going to be wild. It's kind of disappointing because I really look forward to going to camp and at least the first couple of weeks and getting some type of gauge of what's going on. And we'll even see if we have a full preseason too. It's going to be interesting to see what's going on. But the final thing is maybe the special teams. I'm not going to speak the long snapper. Everyone had Chris Boswell on the hot seat last year too. I don't know if he's off of it. If he had like a bad game or two, he's going to be right back on it. But definitely,
kickers live on the hot seat. They just live on it.
That's very true. It's gone here one week, gone the next. Cup of coffee sometimes.
Yeah. What have you done for me lately? You have a couple bad games in a row, and all of a sudden your seat isn't there anymore because it's burned.
Yeah, Josh Scobie knows what that's all about. There's a blast from the past. Those are like some "he who shall not be named" territory right there. But Jordan Berry, I think everybody looks at him. And they're always like, well, how is this guy making like $1.8 million? It's not even like that much money when you're talking about punters. It's just more or less that's where the scale is for having been around in the league for like 5 years or so. You know what I mean? And they always bring other guys in if they feel the next guy's going to be any better. I know Jordan Berry is... it's the same thing, hot seat, because if you have one bad punt or two bad punts, that's all people remember. They don't remember all the good either. I'm not trying to proclaim him as an all-pro or anything either, but I don't see the Steelers spending the money that some of these guys. What's the guy's name in Tennessee? He's ridiculous. The punter that they have, I can't remember his name now. Or the other guy, and I'm going to get it confused if it's Hecker. Yeah, Zerline was the kicker, so Hecker's the punter over with the Rams. Those are the type of guys that are making buku dollars there, and it's just like, that's just not how the Steelers are going to operate when they have to pay guys like Juju or James Conner or TJ Watt or anything like that in the foreseeable future. So, but it doesn't make Barry's seat any less hot, because if they can get somebody that's like under a rookie contract, somebody they're bringing in off the street, undrafted or whatever. Right now they have a Corliss Waitman that's on the roster right now. He's 5 years younger, and he's apparently making like $764,000. If they could trim $1 million by getting rid of Barry, and this guy's every bit as good, and they've already got him on a 3-year deal here. And it's a very bare bones 3-year deal. It's like $2.2 million. They'll say goodbye. I mean, it's the same reason you had guys like Anthony Chickalo or Mark Barron, cast away, because sometimes you got to look at the bank account and your budget and adjust accordingly, because it's still a business in some ways. And they got to be under the salary cap.
Yeah, I'm going to say this in a different way. If your primary interaction with the football is through your foot, your seat is always hot. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're a punter, you're a kicker, you are only as good as your last couple games or your last couple kicks, and that's the way it stays. There's just – because there's no telling. There's no telling when a kicker is going to go bad. and when it does – you don't know, it's their psyche is so. We've talked to Jeff Reed. You've had conversations with Jeff Reed.
Yeah.
You know what these guys can be like, and the difficulty that comes with when their confidence goes. Man, it's worse than with cornerbacks, or it's worse than with almost any other position, because you don't always know why, right? And there's that fluke of luck that goes along with all of it. When the foot is the primary interactive tool with your football, your seat is always hot.
Yeah, and Corliss Waitman, by the way, South Alabama, four seasons, 158 punts for 6,740 yards average. I don't care about the average, because sometimes you got to ping guys in. It's going to be a pooch punt or whatever. Averages and net is really touchbacks is where it really matters. You know what I mean? I don't care that a guy one season had 45.2 yard average. You're really looking at directional kicks and field position. Can they do that job? So yardage is really just kind of a moot point unless you know the guy's got a cannon for a leg, like the guy in Tennessee, and can boot it 60 yards or 80 yards, like the one game when you get like the lucky bounce and the wind and everything, the wind, the rain, and it's just crazy stuff. Oh my! That's what you were in. That's where you were.
I was in the wind and the rain.
Yeah, that'll put out the hot seat fast.
Back to the beginning of the show.
Yeah, well, it'll put us out the hot seat. Then you just have smoke, and you know what? Some of these guys, they ask for the smoke though. There's going to be competition. So, Brian, hey, we're up against it. Thanks for joining me once again, my friend. And I'm still half awake, but making it through. I think I need a second cup of coffee, and then my day will brighten and perk up a little more. Of course, you don't like the hot brown liquid sludge or whatever you call it. So,
Red Bull gives you wings.
Oh, are you a Red Bull guy now? I thought you got out of the energy drink thing.
I'm completely out of the energy drinks, but I do a. I guess I'm not completely out of the energy drinks. I do a Red Bull every now and then in the morning to give me a little boost before I go do my 5-mile run or whatever.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I've liked it. It's just not something, I don't know, the sugary stuff. Even if I go and eat like a full
sugar-free. I can't do the sugar.
Yeah, of course. I was going to say, though, even like a full candy bar, which coincidentally, I think I did this like 2 years ago. I think we were in Pittsburgh. We may have caught a game, flew out somewhere else from the airport there, and it was like, had nothing better to do at night, hit up the sheets, got a little bit of the fast food at the MTO, and then, hey, I haven't had like one of these, I don't know if it was like a Snickers bar or Kit Kat or whatever it was, but I ate like a candy bar, like a full candy bar, and it actually made me sick because I had not had like all that chocolate and sugar and stuff in my system for so long that it literally made me ill. I was like, how did I used to eat all this stuff when I was a kid? And then I realized it was like, I'm starting to turn into Brian. I'm getting old. So anyways, I love you, buddy. I love you.
I'm only as old as I feel, and right now I don't feel that damn old anymore.
No, and you're looking younger than me, to be completely honest. I got to get on my horse and do something here. But hey, we appreciate everyone out there, and when we always sign off, we're always pandering for everyone to like, comment, and subscribe. We're over 3,500 subscribers now on YouTube. Woohoo! I mean, it's crazy to think how far we've come, and we can't do it without all of your help and support out there. So continue to like, comment, subscribe, share, spread the good word, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, you could also we'll pander for some reviews too, especially if you're on like Apple Podcasts or Google or anything else. If you happen to be from another fan base and say that these two idiots don't know what they're talking about, well, you know what? At least identify yourself as being a Cleveland Browns fan, and then acknowledge that we were right. So,
doesn't that actually, as soon as you do that, doesn't that automatically qualify you as not knowing what the hell you're talking about?
Yeah, it's like, you look for different opinions, and it was like some people were mad because we said Odell Beckham wasn't going to have a good year last year, and we were right. So, and we said Freddie Kitchens was not going to be the answer, and we'll make fun of the Browns some more. We'll make fun of them some more in the future. It was just, when we pull up these things, and that's one of the first things that's left. I think it was a Facebook comment or review that was left on our Facebook page, and I saw it the other day. It was still from like last year, but it was funny nonetheless, and I had to share with the group, and I wanted to share with all the listeners out there. So don't forget to do all these wonderful things to help show us your love and support. Brian, thanks for joining me once again. His name's Brian, my name's Joe, and until next time, we want to encourage everyone out there, we truly, sincerely mean it too, be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.